Upon hearing Zhu Lisheng's chilling words and witnessing his ruthless actions, Lin Moyo was consumed by rage. The stone barrier he had conjured wasn't just a trap, it was a death sentence. Within that cursed enclosure, anyone who fell would not only lose their life, but also have their soul obliterated, leaving behind no trace of existence. It was a terrifying weapon, far beyond ordinary cruelty, and it made Zhu Lisheng's betrayal all the more unforgivable. But after witnessing everything unfold, Lin Moyo's fury boiled over. His eyes blazed with rage. As he summoned his scythe in a flash of power, the air around him crackling with raw energy. With a voice that thundered like a storm, he shouted, "Do you really think you can take us all down by yourself?" His challenge rang out like a war cry, defiant, fearless, and ready for battle. Zhu Lisheng couldn't hold back his laughter after hearing Lin Moyo's bold declaration. The sound echoed through the air, loud, sharp, and full of contempt. He sneered, eyes glinting with amusement as he looked at Lin Moyo. "Are you out of your mind?" he scoffed. "You're just a mage. And you seriously think you can take me on with a weapon?" His voice dripped with mockery, the disbelief clear in every word. As he speaks, Zhu Lisheng unsheathes his weapon, the steel catching the light. As his body begins to shimmer with a brilliant, golden aura, a confident grin spreads across his face as he locks eyes with Lin Moyo. "I was saving you for last," he chuckles, his voice filled with cold amusement. "But I've just had a change of heart." Saying that, Zhu Lisheng raised his sword high into the air, golden light swirling violently around him like a storm barely held in check. His face twisted with fury, and with a roar that shook the battlefield, he shouted, "Go to hell." In one fluid, explosive motion, he brought his sword down. A massive wave of energy erupted from the blade, sharp, fast, and crackling with destructive force as it tore through the air straight toward Lin Moyo. "Cut him in half," he bellowed, his voice echoing like a death sentence. The golden sword slash tore through the air like a flash of divine judgment, crackling with raw energy. In the blink of an eye, it struck RMC head-on, the force of the blow erupting in a blinding explosion of light and sound. The instant the attack lands, Lin Moyo's passive ability kicks in, instantly redirecting all the damage. Because the skill is fully active at that precise moment, not a single blow manages to harm him. No scratches, no wounds. Lin Moyo emerges completely unscathed from the assault. Seeing this, Zhu Lisheng's confident facade shattered in an instant. Panic surged through him, his voice trembling as doubt crept in. "What's happening?" he stammered, eyes wide with disbelief. "Did I miss something just now? How is he completely unharmed?" For the first time, uncertainty flickered in Zhu Lisheng's gaze, a crack in his armor of arrogance. Without hesitation, Zhu Lisheng's panic turned to fierce rage. His eyes burned with fury as he unleashed a flurry of relentless attacks toward Lin Moyo. "This can't be happening," he snarled through gritted teeth. "Maybe my first strike missed, but not this time. You're going to die now." His voice was a deadly promise, filled with unyielding wrath and desperation. With a roar of fury, Zhu Lisheng launched a relentless barrage of sword strikes, each one faster and deadlier than the last. The air around him seemed to crackle with the ferocity of his assault. But even as the second wave slammed into RMC, he stood firm, completely untouched. Not a single blow fazed him. It was as if the attacks passed through an unbreakable shield, leaving Lin Moyo utterly unharmed. Sweat began to bead and drip down Zhu Lisheng's forehead as terror gripped him. His breath hitched, voice trembling with disbelief. What is going on? Why isn't he taking any damage? Despite unleashing a relentless storm of attacks, each blow was met with the same unnerving result. Lin Moyo remained untouched, and unfazed. The crushing realization left Zhu Lisheng utterly flustered, his confidence unraveling before his eyes. Sweat poured down Zhu Lisheng's forehead as cold dread sank in. He knew Lin Moyo had consumed the fruit his attributes should have been suppressed, weakened. Yet, to his horror, every one of his attacks failed to land a single blow. That crushing realization shook him to his core. Desperation flooding his veins, Zhu Lisheng wasted no time. With a fierce cry, He called out the name of his second skill, Holy Fire Halo. In an instant, sacred flames erupted from the ground, swirling and blazing with divine energy, engulfing the entire space within the barrier. The air thickened with scorching heat and radiant power, a last desperate gambit to turn the tide. The flames blazed so fiercely that they soon began to consume the bodies scattered nearby. Before long, the fire had spread throughout the entire area inside the barrier. Those few survivors who had managed to keep their distance from Zhu Lisheng, barely out of harm's way, started to panic as they watched the blaze inch closer. Some cried out, "Hurry, drink your recovery potion," while others shouted desperately, "Can God Lin really withstand this?" Doubt gnawed at everyone's hearts. Could Lin Moyo truly withstand the relentless fury of the holy fire? The searing heat pressed down on all of them, each person feeling the fire's oppressive power. Suddenly, towering waves of flames surged forward, racing with fierce intensity toward Lin Moyo. They slammed into him, swirling and wrapping around his form like a blazing cage. Each lick of fire striking with the full force of the sacred inferno, determined to consume him whole. But in just moments, it became shockingly clear this raging holy fire, no matter how fierce, couldn't touch Lin Moyo. Not a single scorch, not a single burn mark marred his skin. He stood unyielding, untouched by the flames that should have consumed him whole. Seeing Lin Moyo emerge from the flames completely unharmed, Zhu Lisheng's panic deepened into full-blown terror. His eyes widened, and his voice cracked as he stumbled back, overwhelmed by the impossible sight. "How is this possible?" he cried out, breath shaky. "What kind of monster are you? None of my attacks are working." For the first time, the mighty Zhu Lisheng was no longer the hunter, but the hunted. At that moment, sweat streamed down Zhu Lisheng's face as his mind raced in confusion and fear. He began muttering to himself, barely holding it together. "Did you not eat the fruit?" But he quickly shook his head, rejecting the thought with rising desperation. No, you did eat it. You had to. Otherwise, you would have summoned those damned skeletons by now." His voice cracked as he stared at Lin Moyo, more shaken with each word. "Then why? Why can you still ignore my holy fire halo? Why aren't you being burned? Why?" Zhu Lisheng's fear was no longer hidden, it consumed him, spilling into the open like a man facing a nightmare made real. Standing tall amidst the blazing inferno, Lin Moyo raised a single hand, and with a calm, effortless motion, he swept the holy flames away from his body as if they were nothing more than smoke. The divine fire scattered and vanished, powerless before him. His voice was cold, steady, and laced with quiet menace. "I don't need the skeleton army to kill you." As he spoke, RMC began to walk forward step by deliberate step, closing the distance between him and Zhu Lisheng. Each movement radiated confidence, the kind that made it clear the tide had turned. Lin Moyo's calm declaration struck Zhu Lisheng like a thunderclap. Panic surged through him, but he masked it with rage, his voice rising in a furious shout. "Arrogant fool," he bellowed, eyes blazing. "You're a mage. What makes you think you can fight a knight in close combat?" Clenching his weapon tighter, he grit his teeth, desperation leaking through his bravado. "If my skills can't hurt you, then I'll tear you apart with my own hands." It was a cry of pride, of fear, and of a man cornered, ready to gamble everything on brute strength. With those words still hanging in the air, Zhu Lisheng let out a furious roar and charged forward, sword raised high. His golden aura flared wildly around him as he rushed at Lin Moyo with everything he had left, determined to end it with sheer force. Steel gleamed, power surged, and he aimed to strike down the one man who had defied all logic. But this time, before Zhu Lisheng could even bring his sword down, Lin Moyo was already there, calm, precise, and unshaken. With a swift motion, he raised his scythe and effortlessly intercepted the incoming strike. Steel met steel with a sharp clang, and in the same breath, Lin Moyo countered. In a single, fluid motion, he twisted his scythe and lashed out, launching a fierce counterattack aimed straight at Zhu Lisheng, his eyes cold and unyielding. The moment their weapons clashed, and he was forced back, Zhu Lisheng's eyes widened in horror. His breath caught in his throat, and the fear he had tried to suppress came flooding back. How? How is his close combat technique better than mine? He muttered, stunned. He's clearly a mage. The words escaped him like a confession, half disbelief, half desperation, as everything he thought he understood began to crumble. Meanwhile, the people still trapped within the barrier, frozen in ice, but conscious, watched the battle unfold with growing hope. After witnessing Lin Moyo's overwhelming power and Zhu Lisheng's helplessness, a wave of joy and renewed spirit swept through them. Even in their frozen state, their voices rang out cracked, but full of passion. "Come on, General Lin. Finish off that bastard." Their cheers echoed through the barrier, a chorus of belief and desperation, as they clung to the one man who still stood between them and death. As Lin Moyo pressed his attack against Zhu Lisheng, his mind raced with determination and gratitude. "Thanks to my teacher's foresight," he thought, "I trained in every profession within the divine Zia Pagoda. After eating the first fruit, all 4 of my attributes finally stabilized, each reaching 10,000 points. It's not the highest power, but it's enough." With that resolve, he tightened his grip on his scythe, ready to end this battle. Zhu Lisheng was pushed back by Lin Moyo's relentless assault, his breath ragged and fear flickering in his eyes. But beneath the surface, something darker stirred, a surge of demonic energy bubbling up from within him. His eyes flared crimson with a fierce, almost wild intensity. "Even though I'm at a disadvantage," he thought, "there's one thing I'm sure of. He's definitely eaten the fruit, but his attributes still pale in comparison to mine." A cruel smile slowly curled on Zhu Lisheng's lips, fueled by a deadly confidence born from that twisted certainty. Without hesitation, Zhu Lisheng steeled himself and prepared to strike once more. With a fierce cry, he lifted his sword high above his head, calling forth his ultimate skill, the Holy Sword of Destruction. A brilliant surge of energy exploded from the blade, shooting upward like a blazing comet toward the sky, radiating overwhelming power that seemed capable of shattering anything in its path. The moment Zhu Lisheng unleashed the Holy Sword of Destruction, his entire body surged with divine power. He readied himself to deliver a devastating sweeping strike aimed straight at Lin Moyo. The sheer force radiating from the attack was overwhelming, so intense and raw that everyone who witnessed it felt a chill of terror run down their spines. It was as if the very air itself trembled under the weight of the impending blow. Fear gripped the onlookers, and their voices rose in frantic shouts. Then, with a roar that echoed like thunder, Zhu Lisheng swung his sword in a devastating arc, sending the Holy Sword of Destruction crashing toward Lin Moyo. "Now, go to hell," he bellowed, eyes blazing with fury. "This attack will end you." The air crackled with raw power as the deadly strike tore through the space between them, carrying with it the weight of Zhu Lisheng's desperate resolve. The Holy Sword of Destruction sliced through the air and struck Lin Moyo head-on. The impact ignited the entire battlefield in a massive explosion, sending shockwaves rippling through the surroundings. Flames and debris erupted violently, turning the ground to shattered fragments, as the force of the blow tore through everything nearby. But at the same time, we see that Lin Moyo has already gotten very close to Zhu Lisheng and stabbed him in the stomach with his sickle. Zhu Lisheng's stomach started bleeding as the sickle pierced deep, and Lin Moyo said in a cold voice, "You are the one who will die here." With those words, he withdrew the scythe from Zhu Lisheng's abdomen. Staring at the bleeding wound in shock, Zhu Lisheng was overwhelmed with disbelief. He simply couldn't process what had just occurred. But barely a second after pulling out his scythe, Lin Moyo swiftly drove a sword into Zhu Lisheng's stomach. Holding the blade, he remarked dryly, "This weapon, left behind by an old boss, finally gets to see some action." As the Lin Moyo penetrated the sword even deeper, blood began to flow from Zhu Lisheng's mouth. Now teetering on the edge of death, his legs began to shake uncontrollably, and his sight grew hazy. Moments later, he crumpled down to his knees. Immediately after, the Lin Moyo attacked him with multiple blows and pierced multiple swords into his body. Now we see that Zhu Lisheng had so many swords embedded in his body, it was beyond imagination. Every part of his body was pierced, and blood was gushing out from every wound. Against all odds, He was still clinging to life. Glancing down at his mangled body in horror, he struggled to speak, barely whispering, "You can't kill me." Now reduced to a trembling, blood-soaked wreck, Zhu Lisheng fell to his knees before Lin Moyo. All traces of pride had vanished, replaced by raw desperation and fear. Tears mixed with the blood on his face as he pleaded, his voice cracked and frantic. "Don't kill me. Please, don't kill me. I'm still useful, I can tell you everything. The secrets of the demon worship sect, I'll give them all to you." He clutched at life with the last scraps of dignity he had left. Hoping that betrayal could buy him a few more breaths, Lin Moyo stood tall and unshaken before the broken man, kneeling at his feet. His eyes were cold, void of mercy, as he looked down on Zhu Lisheng's pitiful plea. His voice, when he finally spoke, was like ice. "You're nothing but a dog of the demon worship sect. What secrets could trash like you possibly hold that are worth sparing your life?" The words cut deeper than any blade, final, merciless, and absolute. And with these words, he took out a sword and thrust it straight into Zhu Lisheng's head. With that final blow, Zhu Lisheng died on the spot. The instant he breathed his last, the ice ability that had trapped everyone within the barrier suddenly wore off, freeing all those who had been encased in the frozen prison. As the ice melted away and freedom returned, the rescued crowd hurried over to surround Lin Moyo. Wearing grateful smiles, they praised him. "Thank you, God General Lin, for saving us." Another voice rang out with excitement. "God General Lin is truly amazing. He took down that beast without even using his skills, and with his powers sealed, no less." "Exactly," someone else agreed. "If it weren't for him, we wouldn't be alive right now." All right, friends, that wraps up this chapter. Curious about what's coming next? We'll dive into it in the following episode. Be sure to rate this chapter from 1 to 10 down in the comments. Let us know your thoughts. We'll catch you in the next video. Until then, stay safe and take care. What do you think will happen next? Drop your predictions below. I'm excited to hear them. And don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe, so you won't miss out on what's coming.